Well, from North Beach Podcast in partnership with TSN, season greetings and welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Darren Dreger here in sunny Brooklyn, Ontario, Canada. We've got Ray Ferraro, who's looking as fresh as always for those who subscribe to our YouTube channel. I mean, look, I know you don't have a lot to do when you're not at the rink calling games, which is often, but you're looking well rested. You're looking very presentable. I mean, you're looking like you're enjoying the festive season.
There's not much festivity in here in this room, I got to be honest with you. There's a bike. There's, my work stuff.
Yeah.
No tree, no ornaments. Usually when Cammie and the kids come, we get a little tree, a local tree, and, and the room's kind of Christmassy. And this year it's just a room. I got to be honest, though. You're in the collared shirt. You're looking good. I didn't bring any. I got my suits, and like you saw my soft pants yesterday. I changed. I got dressed up. I'm wearing my sweats today. And that's kind of all the clothes I got.
Yeah.
That's really kind of it.
If there was a mulligan or a do-over here, and you could bring a creature comfort into the bubble and by the way, I did participate in a text exchange with you and Cammie prior to Christmas. And Cammie made it clear, like you were maybe hours into your room in the bubble, and she was already having stuff delivered to you that you had either forgotten or you just needed and weren't comfortable going about it your own way. So
the best part about that, Dregs, that was the 17th.
Yeah.
And I got the package yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if they just kicked it along or what they did, but really the Draggers really shouldn't be throwing stones here. About being organized.
Fair.
We got this beautiful Christmas card from the Draggers.
Yeah.
Really nice. And then about 10 days later, we got a handwritten one because you guys obviously ran out of Christmas cards. And Holly sent out some others, but she didn't know which list we were on. So we got 2 cards from the Draggers.
Well, yes, but I'm not defending Holly because, look.
Yes, you are. Because
on occasion, like I took a ton of heat for the comment that I made on the last episode where I talked about how pissed I was the windows are always open.
You should take heat for that.
There was a lot of people who felt like that was a very insensitive comment based on the perception that Holly is entering into a different phase of her life. So this is a public apology.
Funny she didn't. Funny she didn't embrace that. I don't know why.
No, I should have throat punched myself for that. But so I think what happened was the first Christmas card bounced back, and because she showed me like a week or so ago and said, "Well, you donkey, you gave me the wrong address for Ray and Cammie." So I don't know why you would have received it, but one of them bounced back. So maybe she scratched the new address, and in the meantime.
Well, we got 2, and they're great.
I love it.
Thanks very much.
So look, you didn't answer the question, so let's not leave that hanging. A creature comfort that if you had a mulligan, you'd do it over and do it differently.
Honestly, nothing. I can't even think of anything that I need. I got a couple of books that I read. When I'm not reading about the tournament, we're at the rink all the time.
Yeah.
I come home and I work out and then I go to bed. It's like, look, it's not bad being in the bubble, except there's literally nothing to do. Right? Like there's nothing to do. You can't go anywhere. I'd like to go to a restaurant or I'd like to walk down the street just like we all would. But since we can't, I'm like, I got everything I need here.
Yeah.
And I'm not like Duthie. Duthie, do you know Duthie brought his wedge?
Did he really?
Yeah.
I'm okay
somehow
with that.
So he's chipping balls into targets in his room. I assume he's got, softer balls because he can't chip. So he'd be sculling them off the TV and stuff. But I asked him, how's it going? And he said, in real life, he's about an 11 handicap, but in the room, he's about a +2. So I think it's going well for him.
And does he have any of the swing aids, the devices that are keeping his hands nice and low and all?
He's working on this new thing though, which I just love it. No wonder he's not getting any better. He keeps changing his mind every 10 minutes.
Oh, Well, look, we all spend time, on YouTube and we're looking for tips and hints and things, especially during golf's off season, which we're in now, right? I mean, everybody wants to improve and get better. And,
Yep.
as you've just explained, in the downtime that you have, which isn't a lot in your room, you probably looked at some golf videos and you've watched some things. You go,
Oh yeah.
I might steal that. So I'm okay with the wedge, but I guarantee you, and we'll have to verify this and get him to submit a picture to the Ray and Dregs podcast. I guarantee you, he's got some scraps or bands or aids for sure. That's how he rolls.
Yeah, he is. He's a consumer. He really is.
Yeah. So Chris and our friends at coolbet.co have put together an interesting list of odds, which we're going to get to in a moment, because coolbet.co, of course, presents our headlines on a weekly basis here on the podcast. And I only show you this, my friend. I'll just show you a little bit. It's the Brandon Sun. So I'll bring it back in a second. Hold on. But I'm going through Twitter today and I see that Rob Vanstone, who, I mean, this guy is an institution in Western Canada, longtime reporter, writer for the Regina Leader Post, which was back in my day when you could put hands on a newspaper. And I love to do that. I still do it, obviously. He was must read. He did an excellent job of covering the Western Hockey League. As you know, he's probably reporting on the Western Hockey League back in the day when you were with the Brandon Wheat Kings. So he did a feature on you. And how many goals did you score that year? Was it 100?
I don't remember. 108. Let me tell you about them. Do you have time?
Well, goal by goal, yes. In season one, remember, we talked about maybe adding that as a staple. You could describe every goal in that season. So log on. I think Ray and Dregs has reposted it on our social medias. So thanks for Rob for doing that. It's a great story. But I don't know if have you had this done? Look at this feature size article, Ray, in the Brandon Sun.
Wow.
That is last month. Perry Bergson.
Yeah.
Writer for
he must
Brandon
be
Sun.
He must be running out of topics. I did that last May.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that was the whole purpose to show and tell. I was like, hold on a second. The man scores 108
You need to do
goals.
more research, Dregs. More research.
I got to do more research. Oh, boy. Anyway, click on.
That's cool, though, to go back. Hey, but seriously, to go back and remember another time of your life and you get to talk about the people that helped you and the the events that helped shape what your career is now. Like I love doing that. Perry has spent a lot of time going through stuff like that, and it's been awesome.
And he continues too, right? With all the alumni of the Brandon Wheat Kings. So there are some terrific stories there in the Brandon Sun. As I said, our headlines are presented by our friends at coolbet.co, and there's a plethora of things to talk about. It's a nice word, eh? I don't think it's
I like
often.
it. Yeah.
Now, do you say plethora or a plethora?
Plethora.
Yeah, same with me. So we're right.
We'll
get to all the headlines.
Everybody else is.
Yeah, we'll get to the headlines. Everything ranging from Jonathan Toews and the Chicago Blackhawks, of course, to the World Juniors. But coolbet.co on the website has, a list of odds, and it ranges everything from, who do you anticipate is going to be the top scorer at the World Junior Championship? You can put money down on that. Group A winners, all of that. There's a myriad of things that you can bet on the site coolbet.co. But we're going to have some fun with the World Championship winning odds for just a moment, okay? Now, I am a rank amateur when it comes to betting on anything. And you've witnessed that firsthand because we played blackjack together a couple of years ago, right? In Vegas.
Awful.
Yeah.
You're not good.
No, I'm not good, but I also witnessed one of the greatest experiences of my life when you pretty much got tuned up by the dealer and were deeply offended that she did not respect your playing knowledge or your guidance, and you got sour. Surly Ray came out.
She was, but here's the thing. The dealers, a good dealer, even when they're taking your money, makes you feel like you're having fun.
Right.
She was treating it like it was her money.
Yeah.
And she didn't like when I said, you realize you don't get to keep that. it goes to the casino. She didn't
Yeah.
find that amusing.
No.
And then I told her she was well on her way to be employee of the month for winning so much. She didn't like that either. I don't get it.
No. And then you went quiet for a bit because you didn't want to push it too far. And then you made
No, because then
another.
you get turfed.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you made another suggestion, but halfway through the suggestion to me, the playing tip, you looked at her and you said, "Is it okay? Like, am I okay to talk? Can I say something?"
Right, because she didn't like the table talk. That was my point. It doesn't matter. It's not your money anyway. Just put the cards down.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I loved it.
Don't get
great Stanley Cup final experience. Okay. Again, coolbet.co. Check them out online. The World Junior Championship winning odds are such. If you bet $100 on Canada, top of the food chain right now, shocking, I know, you get $175 back as part of the win. All right. Russia is number 2 at plus 275. The United States plus 400. The Swedes plus 700. Finland plus 900. So you put $100 down, and either Finland wins or Sweden wins, and you're winning 900 or $700. Now, who among that group? Because look, when you're putting money down, are you not aiming for the long shot? I mean, and everybody's going to bet on Canada, but you're making $175 off a $100 bet. So,
so you're making $75.
Right. Yes. Yes, exactly. The return is 175, so you're making $75. So who in that grouping? Russia at plus 275, USA plus 400, Sweden 700, Finland plus 900. Who are you putting your $100 on?
I'm going to bet on the Swedes.
Okay.
I think they're pretty good. And at that return, I mean, that's all we're looking at, right, is the return.
Yeah.
And so they got a good goalie. They got an unreal defense. And it looks like they're going to score a bit. So, yeah, I'm going to take them.
Yeah. It's early in the tournament. It's going to sound ridiculous if you're listening to this podcast in 3, 4, 5 days. Well, it's going to sound ridiculous anyway. But if you were to be silly enough, foolhardily enough, to drop 100 bones on Austria, and
then you've made a $100 donation.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But just stay with me here. And the Austrians just shocked the universe, upset the hockey world like we've never seen before. The return would be $99,900. I mean,
why don't you bet 200?
Look, I've seen you throw $100 bills around like seriously.
Manhole covers.
Yeah, that's it's funny you say that because automatically as the words are coming out of my mouth, you throw $100 bills around, the image of Gord Miller pops into mind, and then like manhole covers automatically applies to Gord.
You know, you've used 2 good words here already, Dregs. You've used plethora and myriad.
Yeah.
Right? Gord and I have this debate. He thinks he's frugal. I just think he's cheap.
Yeah.
And so we debate this.
I think he's smart because he goes to dinner with people that he knows are going to pick up the bill.
See, that's good strategy right there.
I mean, you can't do that now, right? But in healthier times, and we've experienced this during the World Championships, Gord is very selective in who he dines with. And it's not because he likes keeping the circle tight. I mean, that's a small part of it. It's more about...
So you're saying he's just looking for the free meal.
He's looking for the free meal. All right, headlines presented by our friends at coolbet.co. We've talked about the World Juniors, so check out the odds, place some money down. I'm not sure if I will or won't. My son Mason, 19, he's old enough to engage in this sort of stuff. He was bugging me about this the other day, so I just might do that. How about we start with the headlines and
Sure.
Tough news coming out of the Chicago Blackhawks. And look, I know the circles that you're traveling in, Ian Edmonton is part of the bubble, and the TSN group, certainly the insiders have been talking about this speculation for the last number of days now. There's something up with Jonathan Toews. And, out of respect to Toews, out of respect to the Chicago Blackhawks, you just don't loosely report something as speculative as that, right? Unless you're certain it's an injury, you can say, hey, there's word out there that Toews may be injured himself training. We'll wait for the official announcement, but he could be out for a while. This isn't that. And so for that reason, I'm letting myself off the hook, to be fair, right? Because I've got some principle when it comes to this. I'm not digging in COVID-19 confirmations, even though in 2021, the NHL is going to have to disclose those, right? The identity of the individuals. I don't dig into the personal affairs of players, and I never have, family related or otherwise. And when it comes to something like this, maybe it's a bit blurry, but it's scary nonetheless, because as Toews and the Blackhawks and Pat Persano represents him acknowledged yesterday, they don't know what's wrong with him. He just knows he hasn't felt right for a long time. He used the word lethargic. All sorts of stuff going on. He's working with specialists. But the long and short of it is this guy, captain of the Hawks, is out of the lineup for perhaps a length of time. Kirby Dach, Alex Nylander. I mean, if the Chicago Blackhawks weren't announcing a full-on rebuild, I think this news pretty much does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess, sure. It's funny, I don't get to the hockey part. I just, what I read yesterday, and, what we talked about, it's hard to even think of the hockey. And, my experience with not feeling well, and I've always had some health anxieties and stuff, but the doctors start generally at the worst stuff and work backwards. And they keep trying to eliminate and eliminate and eliminate. And sometimes, I've been told the docs are really good at telling you what it isn't. But when it's something like this, maybe they can't tell you what it is. And that becomes a source of the issue as well. Like it would be crazy to speculate on Jonathan's health.
Right.
Like it would be crazy to do that. And I don't know why. I know people are curious and interested, and I just hope he's okay. I don't, I just hope he's okay. I mean, he's a super fit guy. He's always been exceptionally healthy, exceptionally careful about what he puts in his body, all those things that you associate with good health. And he's at this point. So I just hope he's okay.
So, yeah, of course. But there has to be a hockey component to this, right? And
well, there is now. Yeah.
Yeah. And there'll be lots of speculation as to what Stan Bowman is going to be involved with, isn't going to be involved with. Maybe we can marry two stories here. You got Jack Roslovic, young player in Winnipeg who's asked for a trade. If I'm Stan Bowman, the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm trying to collect as many of those young assets as I possibly can. But what does this say about Patty Kane or Duncan Keith? Like, again, when you looked at the Chicago Blackhawks coming into the season, you had high hopes for Kirby Dach. Terrible what happened to him at the World Juniors. They've got other good young pieces to bring in. I mean, go down the list. Sketchy goaltending. But they have Patrick Kane, who's still among the world's very best, and Duncan Keith, who just competes as best he can. So would you be thinking about moving either or both of those guys amid what we've just talked about regarding Jonathan Toews? Or do you need to learn more about Toews' situation before you go down that path?
Well, I was here a little bit, Dregs, in the summer, or summer, in the off season when they announced that they were going to go down this path of rebuilding in the longer term. And the problem becomes if Kane continues to play at the level he's at, you're never going to be so bad that you're in a complete rebuild because he's too good. And Duncan Keith still is too good.
Yeah.
Now, the goaltending might fix all of that, and it doesn't matter. But my thought was, if you're going to do it, just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off and do it. I don't know how this helps them try and balance both staying relevant but rebuilding. But you have to remember, you still have to put a team on the ice. You're still asking people, not right now, but to come to the games, to invest in your team both financially and emotionally. And if you trade everybody away for a bunch of draft picks that aren't going to play for 3 years, how does that help you?
Yeah.
So a player like Jack Roslovic would be of interest to me if I were the manager. The draft picks, great, super, but that doesn't put people on the ice right now.
Mm-hmm. Where are you with young players like Roslovic? I mean, I've grown accustomed to it, and you likely have as well. Back in the day, whenever that was, not that long ago, a young, somewhat unproven NHL player,
Mm-hmm.
he'd have to be in a real dark place, a real tough situation before telling his agent to ask for a trade. I mean, Roslovic's had opportunity in Winnipeg. I mean, they're more experienced, better players that play ahead of him in Winnipeg's top six. So is this a calculated gamble by restricted free agent who just wants a fresh start? Or does he need to prove more before he puts himself in a position where he should be asking for a trade?
Well, I would say he's got to prove more, but that's really not relevant. I mean, if he's not happy and he wants to go somewhere, so he asks for a trade. What I think the education continues for young players is they ask for a trade. The manager says, "Oh, okay, I'll check around," but he's not going to give away a first-round draft pick in Jack Roslovic for a bag of pucks. There's got to be a return, and what they often find out is the return doesn't match what they think they're worth or what the team thinks they're worth. It's really funny because if you think about it, the player thinks he's better than the opportunity that's afforded to him in that city.
Right.
Yet the player thinks the team is holding out for too much. So they're kind of asking for two different things. They're saying, I'm better than you'll give me an opportunity for. And then the manager says, I can't make a trade for you because I'm not getting enough back.
Right.
So you get stuck. And a lot of times these things work themselves out because there's an opportunity that arises. Roslovic's a little bit stuck because he's a talented player. He's clearly got skill, but he hasn't been able to grab a spot. Winnipeg's had that number 2 center job open forever. And that's really the spot where I envision him. And he hasn't been able to grab it. He's a right winger. You're not playing ahead of Wheeler and lining. You're stuck. He's not a checker. So the third line's out. All of a sudden, there's nowhere to go. So, I see why he's frustrated and he wants a bigger chance, but it's not that easy to move a player.
Well, and the league has always been about opportunity, right? So if Roslovic either gets traded or worst case for him, he's left to just sit at home and wait. To your point, Kevin Cheveldayoff isn't giving him away for free, nor should he. But Cole Perfetti is preparing for his first NHL training camp after the World Juniors. I think you've got to be a special player physically to jump from the draft and straight into the National Hockey League. Perfetti will get his opportunity, but maybe Roslovic asking for a trade sitting on the sidelines gives Perfetti a little bit more of a look, if you will, from Paul Maurice's standpoint.
It's possible. I mean, I've seen him 3 times live, and that's in this tournament. He doesn't look NHL ready to me.
Right.
But if he plays 2 more games, he might look NHL ready. You know how this tournament is. It's short, it's compact, and it's foolish to make a concrete evaluation on a player in a tournament. He doesn't quite look ready to me, kind of like what Ville Heinola did last year.
Right.
All of a sudden, he showed up at camp, and they're like, what the hell are we going to do with this kid? He's really good. Like, they didn't expect it. And maybe Perfetti could be one of those players. But the crazy part about a guy like Jack Roslovic, who seems like he's a really good kid, is that it's funny how all of a sudden you're not the youngest guy anymore. You're in that dangerous age of, oh, wait a minute, they might move past you. You might go somewhere else, and then they've got no emotional tie to you in the place that acquires you. You're just a guy. And there's always that danger too.
Yeah. I want your thoughts on, you mentioned Cole Perfetti, at least as we have this conversation recording the Ray and Dregs podcast on Wednesday, doesn't appear to be NHL ready. That's not an indictment on this kid. I mean, there are a few who are NHL ready. And I do want your thoughts on a couple of World Junior players who, from my perspective from well away from Edmonton. They look pretty close to being NHL ready. But there are a couple of other NHL stories we need to get to first before we go wholeheartedly into the World Juniors. Tampa Bay gets out of cap purgatory. And I guess Julian Breezeball knew that something was going to arise and likely had 2 or 3 different options. I'm sure that there were multiple conversations with Detroit. That speculation was well documented. But Pierre Dorion and the Ottawa Senators swoop in. I think Dorion did well in this. Cedric Paquette is a player that DJ Smith is going to like. He gets Braden Coburn, who's got 1,000,000 miles on him, but he can still play, and he's going to help the Ottawa Senators, or he should. And perhaps just as important to that is they move out, we call it dead money, in Marian Gabourik's contract and Anders Nilsson, who because of health isn't going to play.
Right.
So looks good from Ottawa's standpoint. I have a problem with this, and I know Gord does too, because I've seen him talk about it on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Should you be able to buy your way out of cap purgatory, as I describe, or really is it a legalization of cap circumvention, being able to do
that? I'm sure you saw that video at the start of the pandemic, the older guy sitting there, an older man, and someone's asking him a question. You have 2 choices. A, you can spend your life with your wife, or B, and the older gentleman starts going, B, I pick B. And it's an awesome little video. Yeah. I pick B here, Dregs. It's legal circumvention. I don't think you should be able to put dead money on your cap if it's not your player. I don't think you should be able to acquire the dead money because it just circumvents the cap. That dead money goes on long-term injury reserve. It's a little bit of a complicated formula, but basically now you can spend over the cap. And I don't like it. What I would prefer is each team is allowed 1 franchise player. And each year on August the 1st, in a normal world, you have to declare who that franchise player is for that year. Mm-hmm. And that salary can be taken off your cap. So if you choose in an $81 million cap world to spend $95 million because you're paying somebody $12 million or $13 million, go ahead. Most teams won't use it. But this, it feels greasy. It feels like it's a rule just to get around. And Julian Breezeball didn't do anything wrong. It's in the rules. And if everybody doesn't like the rules, well, then the next time they have a CBA, which is now in 6 years, they can try and fix it again.
Right. So full eye roll for me. I don't know how surprised you were when the St. Louis Blues announced that Mike Hoffman was coming to camp on a PTO, professional trial. Because automatically I'm like, come on. We know what the situation is there. Alex Dean can't play anymore, so they get LTIR relief there. And to maximize the amount of long-term injury relief that they can get, they're going to leave it until the last possible moment, the start of the regular season, opening night for the St. Louis Blues, before they announce that they, have agreed to a contract with Mike Hoffman. Right. Likely speculation suggests it's a 1-year, somewhere in the 4s, low 4s, maybe a flat $4 million, whatever it is. Pretty obvious, isn't it? Mike Hoffman wanted to play for the St. Louis Blues, and he's willing to let them go through their cap gymnastics and squeeze the calendar to make it work.
So Hoffman will buy insurance for training camp to ensure the value of a likely agreed upon contract. The LTI stuff, if people don't understand it, they have to hold the player as long as in Alex Steen in this case, and Vladimir Tarasenko for that matter. And they have to hold him as long as they can to the beginning of the regular season, flip him onto LTI, and then you get that relief on your cap to spend. I mean, it's pretty obvious what they're doing. And again, Dregs, it's all fine. It's all legal, but it just doesn't seem right.
It doesn't.
It just doesn't seem right.
No, and look, how many radio hits did you do leading up to that news where the hosts would continually ask, why isn't Mike Hoffman been signed? So And you've talked about this before. You didn't like the uncertainty of not having a contract as a player.
I
So,
hated it. Hated it. Yeah.
Hoffman deserves some credit because to embrace patience and the guidance of his agent, Rob Hooper, to say, look, let's just sit back here because there is going to be an opportunity where a legit Stanley Cup contending team is going to have an LTIR situation that maybe we don't know about just yet, but it is going to surface. Well, as that player, you're like, okay, and what if it doesn't? Because I'm
Oh
watching
yeah.
all of these guys around me sign for peanuts. Then what happens?
Yeah, it would be a place, honestly, Dregs, I wouldn't have been very comfortable sitting in.
Yeah.
He knows he's going to get something, but it didn't seem like that something was going up as the days were going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good signing for St. Louis.
Oh, terrific. I mean, unofficially, of course, and now you wait for some of the other guys who are available. Travis Hamonic still twisting in the wind. Teams in the mix: Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, Ottawa. Sounds like he'd prefer, if he can, to stay in Canada. But you look deeply at the teams that I just mentioned. Calgary doesn't have the money. Vancouver would have to do something. Montreal, Berge is in on everything all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, Mark Bergevin, if you're a veteran player and you can play a role and 750 grand sounds right, the Habs are the team for you.
I like that ad. I mean, Corey Perry, for me, if he can stay healthy and he's healthy going into the playoffs, I mean, he's going to
Okay, so
drive
Drakes,
people bananas.
what if Montreal's fourth line now includes Michael Frolik and Corey Perry? That's 750 grand each. Yeah, I sign up for that.
Yeah.
And they got Jake Evans, that little buzzsaw, who's going to probably play in the middle of their fourth line. And you got a young guy and two old guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think they're pretty good. I wonder if I'm getting fooled, but I think Montreal is going to be really good this year.
Well, you made a comment. I don't know if it was on the last episode or the first episode in season 2, but you were asked and Ask Ray and Dregs anything, and we'll get to that coming up. But to rank the Canadian teams going in, and I remember you, of course, talking about Montreal and all the work that Berge has done with Anderson and Toffoli and bringing Jake Allen in, and now you got Corey Perry and
Joel Edmondson and
Frolik, as you just mentioned. I mean, there's just a ton of difference there. It's going to be a completely different look. Calgary's done some good things. So I think we're in agreement. Let's hope that the North Division, I keep calling it the Canadian Division, it doesn't really matter to me, but let's hope it's a one-off because it's going to be fun and playoff-like hockey. But, I mean, every matchup is going to have some intrigue to it. I mean, that's the expectation. We'll see if it delivers.
Well, yeah. The only way it won't, Dregs, is if somebody gets out of the gate 2-14,
right? Yeah,
and then they're done. Or no, not even that bad. If somebody gets out of the gate 1-7-2, they're finished. They're likely finished. You're not making those points up, and so. Just think of the pressure on the teams to try and be organized at the start of the year to get out of the gate okay, because nobody really knows what it's going to be like.
Yeah. A couple more NHL questions and Ask Ray and Dregs anything coming up. But first, let's go back to the World Juniors. And we talked about Perfetti, and let's just let the tournament play out and see, what he looks like at the end of it. There's a couple of players that are pretty obvious based on how well they've played outside of Team Canada. And Canada's got a list of players playing well right now. Mm-hmm. Phil Tomasino comes to mind because all he does is score goals. And Dylan Cousins has been a great ad as well. I'm watching Zegras play for the Americans, and every time, I want to say, and this is going to sound terrible, and all our American fans are going to be pissed at me. He's got that cocky American swagger to him, but he backs it up every time he's on the ice. It's not like you're waiting for something to happen. Something is going to happen with this kid. He's really, really good. Is he NHL good, ready to jump into the National Hockey League this year?
Yeah, I don't know what else he could be doing or how to look to be more ready. Yeah. The three players well, I'm not going to say it. Of the players that are NHL ready,
Yeah.
Zegras and Tim Stützle from Germany are at the top.
Yeah.
Zegras they both have, now I use this term and some people get their pants in a knot, but because they don't like it, too bad. I call it puck arrogance. They have an arrogance when they carry the puck that they know there's a play there somewhere down the line. They're not giving the puck up. They're like, I've got it. I'm going to make a play. And both Stützle and Zegras, they have it. They go about the game differently. I think they're both fantastic players. Zegras is showing off more of a shot this year than he had last year. But man, that kid is creative. He plays the game with imagination. And a lot of times that is beaten out of the kid. We talk about creativity, but it's imagination, Dregs. It's like you have to imagine what's going to happen in front of you and then have the skill to do it. And Zegras has it. Stützle is determined and fierce and skilled. Man, Ottawa's got a winner in that kid. And to just take this a step further, there's all kinds of people. I call them the 2 week scouts that are just booting Quentin Byfield in the pants here.
Yeah.
For the second year in a row, Byfield's the youngest player on Team Canada. There's a real progression that you can see in his game. If you just look at it, like unbiased, you can see he's a little quicker, he's a little stronger, he's a little more sure. And then he blows up for 6 points the other day.
Yeah.
The 6 points are great because they'll make him feel good and maybe people will relax a little bit. But he's 18. If the NFL had an 18-year-old draft, it would be a disaster. They draft 22-year-old guys.
Right.
So if I'm LA, I'm not worried at all. I'm just checking the boxes. What is he getting better at? What does he need work at? But there's like Holtz and Raymond, Alexander Holtz and Lucas Raymond in Sweden, Philip Broberg, Thomas Bjornfort, Victor Soderstrom. Those are all really near NHL ready players. Vasily Podkolzin with Russia. Now, he's going to be more of a middle six player than a top line guy. He's ready. He's ready to play.
Yeah.
Why not? He's strong. He's big. Bowen Byram, he's there. The only thing that might prevent Bowen from playing is Colorado's all of a sudden got about 53 young defensemen. I don't know where they all came from, but he's ready to play. I'm really impressed with a good many players in this tournament. Marco Rossi from Austria hasn't had the puck much because they don't have the puck much. He's close. Dylan Cousins, he's there.
Yeah.
He's an NHL player.
So you need to clarify something. You probably had your headset on and you were diving into your notes. You were getting ready for puck drop on Tuesday. And the O-Dog is in the pregame. Is that the only place he shows up, is in the pregame and does his 90?
Oh, yeah, he's at home. He's at home, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember exactly. He was just, analyzing some offensive plays and why Canada is so dangerous in so many different ways. And he showed a Tomasino goal where he fends off the defender, good puck protection, and then goes upstairs. And he described it as a Ray Ferraro special.
No. Oh, isn't that nice?
Well, is it? Because then they come back on camera, and there's James and Bob, and James has got this smirk on his face. So I thought it was a compliment. I thought that was a player who recognized your talent and knows for the net. And when you were in a scoring area, you were going to do everything you could to put the puck in the net, right? You scored a lot of goals. But I don't know. So I'm glad to hear that you read it that way, because that's how I interpreted the comment. But from the snarky look on Duthie's face, I think he thought that O was taking a shot at you. I do.
Well, okay, so here's the difference. I would take the evaluation from Jeff O'Neill, former NHL player, number 5 overall pick in his draft year, as opposed to a guy that needs help on his golf swing by attaching a rubber band from his forearm to his biceps. So I look at that goal. Let me see. What was wrong with it? He got a breakaway. He had to shield the defender off, and he put it under the bar. Okay, if James wants to smirk, it's still in the net. I don't care. Do you know how I scored my first NHL goal, Dregs?
I don't.
Slap shot. Slap shot. Now, not my slap shot. It was Ray Neufeld's, and it hit me in the knee and went in the net. I don't care. It's in the net. It's behind you, goalie. That's one for me. That's how I looked at it.
Well, again, I I don't know if we can post the video, but I'll send you the link if I can find it. I should have prepped you for this. It just came to mind as we're having the conversation. But I would like your interpretation of what the look on James' face was. I think he thought that O was taking a shot at you, and I don't think he was. So I'm there. I got your back, and I think Jeff O'Neill does
And
too.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate O's expert analysis.
It was terrific. All right. We're not going to belabor this, and then we'll wrap up and move forward, wrap up the headlines and move forward with Throat Punch. And by the way, I've got an emotional throat punch today, right?
Oh,
just saying. Some criticism from a number, not many, but a number of established reporters, more in Canada than the United States, but there's one or two in the U.S. Ken Campbell, the Hockey News, Terry Jones, who's a longtime established reporter in Edmonton, of course, not loving the World Junior Championship and specifically the lopsided games, right? And none of us like it. You know, I'm sure, you know, it's not easy calling games, is it? When you've got a team like Canada, you know, absolutely dominating the Germans and winning the opener 16-2. And as much as I would like to push back on social media to some of it, you're probably in the same boat. I'll let you speak for yourself. I find it tough because unless you've experienced it and you've been to the World Championship or the World Juniors as we have, and you can see how these kids, even though they know going into that game, they're going to get beaten, and they're probably going to get beaten badly. Just to be on the same sheet with a top contending team like Canada, you know, the Slovakians pushing Canada to the brink early on in the tournament. There's obviously moral victory in that, but those kids love that experience, despite what the score sheet says at the end of the game. Why doesn't that matter instead of going after the IIHF and Hockey Canada and all these federations and shortening the tournament and doing all of these things? It's been the same.
Well, I would say that it's easy to point out the blowouts for sure, and I mean nobody's in favor of that. Could the tournament be smaller? Sure, I guess. It could be 8 teams, but that's like saying that. So we're only going to allow the best writers to write about this. The rest of you can't come. The rest of you can't write about it. Go away, because you're not in the top group, right? These teams have earned their way into this tournament. Now, Ken Campbell has posited an idea that, and I quite agree with it, was that Austria is here because they won the 1A tournament. The team that they won the 1A tournament with, 12 of those players, I think, are too old to play in this tournament.
No.
The team that you qualify with, it should be in the time frame that they should be able to compete in the tournament. Because in my mind, it makes no sense that a team qualifies, but the players that get to play in the tournament had nothing to do with the qualification and are quite likely not as good as those older players. So that would be the biggest change that I would make. The NCAA tournament, great tournament, love it. NCAA basketball, blowouts every year in the first 2 rounds, like stompings.
Yeah,
it happens, and then you go on and you watch the rest of the tournament.
Yeah,
right. That's just the way it is. It won't be long before the people that have a problem with it can bitch and complain about the NHL scheduling, the divisions, the boring matchup in February that they don't like. They'll have plenty of other stuff to move on to. Look, I think the tournament's great. I've been doing it for 10 years. I wish all the games were as good as the games are going to be from today on, because the way the schedule is, the games from today, which is December 30th, they're going to be great.
Yeah.
Can't be perfect.
No, well said. Headline presented by our friends at coolbet.co. We've got Throat Punch coming up here, right? And we have a Twitter candidate for Throat Punch. Thunder's 9 is nominating the NHL Network in the United States for not using you and Gord Miller on Team USA game broadcasts. So Thunder's 9 submitting. I thought that could be our first Twitter Throat Punch. Going after the big boys. Look at the smile on your face.
Look, I go on the air where they put it. I got no idea. Nobody tells me.
Exactly. All right.
I
You
just
want to
go
start?
and do the thing, right? No, I think. No, I think I kind of already did my Throat Punch. If you don't like it, don't watch.
Yeah.
But you're free to critique.
Yep.
Absolutely free to critique. And critique and offer a solution. Instead of making the same argument from 1987 to 1997 to 2007 to 2017. It's the same argument. It's the same thing all the time. Be creative with it. Offer a solution. And I think most of us would go, that's a really good solution. But let's keep one thing in mind. Just like the people that complain that the NHL season's too long and it should be shortened, which it's not going to be, and there's a reason for it. It's called revenue. It's the same reason the tournament is the way it is. It's to include as many teams as possible, to give as many teams the chance to play in the World Junior tournament as they possibly can, and to make revenue for the IIHF. That's what it is.
Nice. So you're throat punching the critics, the social media critics of the World Juniors.
Yeah, but they're free to critique. I think that's important. They are free to critique. Go ahead, but offer a solution. Don't just yell into the wind.
Yeah. All right. So
who you got?
Well, in the promo, I was going after the snow clearing dude again, but something else has surfaced that matters. I mean, guy taking out my grass 3 times a year isn't that big of a deal. What am I going to have to do in the summer? I mean, they'll be playing playoff hockey, but I'll be fixing my grass. Anyway, 2,923 positive COVID-19 cases in Ontario today, December 30th. 39,200 tests done. That's a pretty big number, 2,923 positive cases. And we didn't learn today. We learned this earlier, a few days ago. Doesn't matter. But now the finance minister, province of Ontario, Rod Phillips, has come out and said, I made a regrettable mistake. And his mistake, for those who don't know this story, is getting on an airplane, he and his wife, and going to St. Bart's for the holidays. Well, the rest of us here in Ontario are in full lockdown. I mean, the restrictions are abundantly clear. One person in your household can go and get groceries when essentially needed. You can go out and get your medications or attend a medical appointment. Beyond that, I mean, there are kids who are on Christmas breaks here, Ray, who can't even go to ski hills because the province deemed that it's too risky. Whatever. It would just be too dangerous for the public to keep ski hills open. Yet you've got a member of our provincial government and his wife jumping on an airplane and going to St. Bart's only because, it's okay. We'll come back. We'll quarantine for 14 days. No big deal. I mean, where's the leadership in that? There clearly isn't any. And further on, he goes on to say, well, when we decided to go, the plans had already been made prior to the December 26th Ontario lockdown. It's utter nonsense. Like, we've been talking about this lockdown for several days, if not weeks, in the province. Yet a high-ranking government official, the finance minister of the province, didn't know that the lockdown was coming on December 26th. So I'm going to say this. Until Rod Phillips resigns as the finance minister, can you fire an elected official? I don't know that you can. He is going to be my standing throat punch candidate until he's no longer in office. I mean, my kids are going bananas here.
There's lots there. Number one, about that he had the tickets booked before the lockdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Lots of people had trips planned when the pandemic hit, and then spent 6 months trying to get refunds from the airlines. Right? Like that's what had to happen. Right? That's what it was. And so that's a little flimsy. An accident is when I go to grab my coffee and spill it on my computer, which I haven't done recently, but I have done. That's an accident. Getting on the plane is not an accident.
Yeah.
You had to get to the airport. You had to check your bags in. You had to get there.
Well, look, it pisses me off, obviously, and I'm not going to belabor it, because the next episode we do, I'm just going to say Rod Phillips throat punch. Ray, who's your throat punch? But again, I take it across country, and I think of the sacrifices that you and Cammie have had to make. You've got Riley and Reese, who are high-level athletes. Well, they weren't able to play the game that they're great at playing and participate in the tournaments worldwide, that they're never going to get those experiences back again because of the restrictions.
And we're not unique. Just think of everybody wants to play their sport, the sport they love, or they want to get outdoors to do the things that they want to do. And we're all in some way, shape, or form restricted by what's going on and what the restrictions are.
Yeah.
And 70% of the people, I don't know, I just picked that number, follow. But your leadership has to be part of that 70%. Yeah. It has to be.
Anyway, my throat punch candidate, I'm PO'd about it, but you'll hear about it again in episode 4. Mark my words. Ask Ray and Dregs anything, and normally we glean our questions off Twitter with the submissions there, or Ray and Dregs' website, rayandregs.com. So continue to send those in. I feel like we do a disservice every week with this segment, because I was going to say, I think we literally get hundreds of submissions. Hundreds might be strong. Let's say dozens. But we're going to have a little bit of fun to start. So from multiple fans, Rob Gray, our illustrious leader here on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, said, from multiple fans, what are your guys' top TV picks and hidden gems from 2020? I know your list, and it's an interesting one. So do you have it in front of you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I sent it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my list. I'm going to give you 5 and an honorable mention.
Okay.
In order. Last Dance. I mean, this is what I've watched in the pandemic. Last Dance, I thought it was amazing.
Yep.
The documentary, the storytelling, unbelievable. 2 is Ozark. I love that series. I can't wait till the next season. 3 is Ted Lasso. If you know who Jason Sudeikis is, oh my gosh, is he funny. I love it. I thought it was great. Number 4 is a crazy offbeat show called Dead to Me.
Psst, there's lots of swearing.
Oh no. The characters are they're so out there. I thought it was awesome. And my 5th one is Queen's Gambit. I don't know anything about chess really, other than I'm no good at it, but I love the show. Excellent. And my under the radar, I went and rewatched 10 years after I've watched it the first time, was Deadwood. If you like Westerns at all, Deadwood is spectacular.
Psst, lots of swearing.
Have we got a bunch of 12-year-olds listening to the podcast?
Yes, but there's one word in particular on Deadwood that seems to be repeated over and over and over.
Deadwood could be a tad offensive.
Yeah, Holly and I watched.
But I think
it was your recommendation last year, and you said you got it.
How far did Holly get into it?
I don't know. Like there was a C-bomb, like what, maybe 3 minutes into the show.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been much further.
Nah, and she was like, nah, all right, okay.
Did you watch it or did you get off it?
I did not finish it. No, I got off.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. But that's why there's lots of shows. Give us yours. What do you got?
Oh, okay. I went number 1 with Ozark. I'm just fascinated by how diabolical that show is and how they just develop the characters, right? And you know, somebody that seems so nice initially then just turns into this gut-wrenching kid. I'm looking forward to the next round. I was in the minority.
Last season, by the way.
What's that?
Only one more season left.
I know.
This is it.
But I was kind of disappointed on how it ended, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Don't blow it, but I did not see that coming.
I didn't see it coming either. I know the scene that you're talking about. You're right. Did not see that coming. But I felt like leading up to that, there was going to be more twists and kind of, again, that diabolical stuff that it's so notable for. However, it still ranks number 1 on my list. I moved Queen's Gambit up to number 2.
Really?
I thoroughly enjoyed that. Just everything about it. It was so quirky, right? And I enjoyed everything about it. I liked how they developed the story from the beginning to end. And shocking, I know, but how you had this prodigy, this child prodigy, you know, who just developed into this intriguing woman. And you know, it had the spirit to compete in it too, right? She's toppling the world's chess powers. So I loved it. This one is going to surprise you, I think. Number 3 on my list of 5, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Did you watch it?
Can't say I know it.
Seriously?
Nope.
Okay.
Don't know
it. You gotta watch it. I mean, it's. I'm not going to go through it all, but it's set in the 50s, I believe, right? And this woman is a housewife. It's what her job was. She was a housewife. You know, husband's the breadwinner, all of that. But on the side, she was a comedian and a little raunchy. Like, so you'd see her stand up act, and she'd talk about her home life and sometimes things in the bedroom. And I'm just telling you, I don't want to give too much away.
How long, Dregs? How long?
Yeah, honestly, that was a bit of a challenge. I'm going to be wrong on this, but it was plus 20 episodes. Like it was at least 2 seasons, I think. Yeah, maybe 3.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
Okay. Not a series, but it's a weekly thing. Anything to do with Gold Rush. Do you ever watch it?
Nope. But I could see why, though. I know.
Yeah. Anything to do with Gold Rush. I put Jack Ryan number 5 on my list.
I'm pissed right now. I totally forgot a series that I loved and it's spurred interest in me that I never knew I had. And that is F1 Drive to Survive.
Oh.
I cannot believe I forgot that. What an idiot. I can't believe how much I love that.
Did you watch the Jeffrey Epstein documentary?
No.
I mean, it can't be on anyone's list of top 5 things to watch because the subject matter is grotesque. We watched that about 3 weeks ago. I think it's 4 episodes. Oh, boy. Anyway.
Yeah, no.
Honorable mention for me, This Is Us. And this one, have you seen
Cammie
any
loves
of it?
that.
Yeah.
Very little. I got too far behind. Cammie loves it.
It's a pull at your heartstrings family kind of series that, again, takes you in some tough situations and life experiences. But there you go. So thanks to everybody who wanted to know what our top 5 TV choices are. Have you got time for a couple more NHL questions, and then we'll land the plane, Ray?
Yes, land the plane.
There's a backstory to that, which we can tell. Do not. I can't believe I just said that. Anyway.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna say. When you tape a hit for Sports Center, it's got to be, you tape it, you move it along, and then once everything's done, they say, okay, finished, everybody, it's good, and off you go. So we're taping this one day, Dregs and I and the host. And the host is trying to fit. So he throws it to me, I do my part, Dregs does his part, then it goes back to the host, and he wants to use this complicated stat to finish and throw it back to Sports Center. First time he screws it up. Like, I do my part, Dregs does his, he screws it up. I do mine, screwed up. The fourth time, Dregs has had it. He just wants to go home. And he says, just land the plane. In other words, leave all those stats alone. Just say, thanks, back to you, Sports Center. We want to eat dinner.
We both knew instantly where I was going.
Oh, good.
No. All right. Last question, and Ask Ray and Dregs anything, is from Kenny. Kenny thinks that the NHL should have extended playoffs going forward. He enjoyed what he saw leading into return to play. He's saying nothing wrong with the play-in round. No fans are against it, and it'll drive up revenues to help with the COVID shortfalls of no fans in most markets for a season and a half. Raymond, would you be for or against more of the play-in stuff?
I'd be for it if I could figure out how not to extend the season too long.
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge, as I see it. I think, I know I've talked about this in the German league, the DEL. So if you picture this in each conferences, the top 6 teams get in. 7, 8, 9, and 10 play a 2 out of 3 series, and the winners of those 2 series become the 7th and 8th seeds, and then you start. And I think that's brilliant. It adds 2 out of 3 series to add more revenue and to create more interest. In my opinion, it was a really cool way to do it.
So I
would be in favor.
Yeah, I agree. And this has nothing to do with that. But we know that the National Hockey League, considered and probably will continue to consider 100 different ideas, right? I mean, they had no idea until recently that they'd actually be able to go on January 13th. And a lot of that was the boardroom stuff with the Players Association. But again, because COVID-19 remains in control to some degree, you have to conjure up just about anything. One idea that was tossed around, and I wouldn't say at higher levels, but if it wasn't safe enough to return to NHL arenas, period, not just in Canada, but it would be safe enough to return in the summer, but you really want to get back to a normal schedule for next season, 21-22, why not have a 31-team tournament, right?
And like the NCAA tournament?
And so there's no regular season. How you'd pay players and all that, I don't know, and it's not going to happen. But I love when I hear stuff like that leak out, because those are the conversations that you and I and Gord and everybody have when we're on the road sitting around just killing time, right? Is how fun would this be if they ever considered doing that? So,
well, then you start talking about it, and sometimes you can see logistically why it can't work.
Yeah.
And other times you go, yeah, this can work. I'm for new ideas. I'm for change. I'm for always trying to find a better way. Why not?
Yeah.
You might find it.
All right, Kenny. Thank you for the question. Okay, Ray, wrapping up here, bud. It is December 30th. You're busy the rest of the way. You've been busy all along. New Year's Eve is going to be anything but normal because you're not at home, but you're never at home on New Year's Eve. So is TSN on your floor going to have some sort of New Year's Eve gathering?
No, we can't. I don't believe we can.
Wow.
I'm sure I'll have a glass of red.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, or for many times, my family's with me. So, and TSN has a New Year's Eve party, but obviously this year is not going to be the case. So, yeah, I mean, the next time we check in, it'll be 2021, which is just crazy. But I got to say this: today's December 30th. I want to wish my son Riley a happy 14th birthday. He's an awesome kid, and I can't believe it's already been 14 years, and I miss him. And I gotta tell you how funny this kid can be. So he's a really thoughtful, kind boy, and his humor is understated. So I call him, I FaceTime him. He's playing his video games. So he's got his phone on FaceTime. He's showing the roof. I'm looking at the roof. I want to see him. So I say to him, hey, Ry, like once in a while, just like hold the phone up so I can see you. I said, Dad, I'm going to put a picture on the roof, and then you can look at my picture when you call on FaceTime. I think that is awesome that he thought of that. That is so good.
That is so good.
Happy birthday, Riley. I love you and I miss you.
That's tremendous. All right. Final word to you before I have to get into the wrap-up stuff. I know you're going to want to wish everybody. You just wish Riley a happy 14th birthday, but New Year's is upon us, and obviously we're all looking for a healthier 2021. Any shout-out in particular you want to provide?
No, I would just echo that, Dregs. I mean, 2020 has shown the good and the bad in a lot of ways. We're all frustrated and tired and worn down, and I hope for 2021 that we all have a healthier and happier year, and just look after yourself and look after those around you. Do the best you can.
All right. Cheers. I love my dog mug.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, my friend. And Happy New Year to our partners too, by the way, right? Coolbet.co.
Yeah.
Without Chris Abbott and the fine people at Coolbet.co, we'd be just rambling on and on and on. And we're pretty good at that. But thanks to them for continuing to partner up. And as we discussed earlier, check out the website, especially now with the World Junior Championship. There's so many creative options there to lay down some money and perhaps make some money in return. But it's about the sports that are being played. It's about the casino games website. Everything is there for that gambler in you at coolbet.co. And if you're interested in partnering with us here on the Ray and Dregs podcast, you can reach out to us on the website, rayanddregs.com. Thanks to everybody for listening to us. We went on for like 70 minutes. We didn't even have a guest today.
Yeah. That's enough for 2020.
That's enough for 2020.
That's enough.
Thanks for listening, rating, and sharing. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on the YouTube channel as well. Episode 4 will ring in the new year 2021. In the meantime, everybody, stay safe.